Welcome to the Politically Asian podcast. We're just two Asian American buds talking about politics and the Asian American community in hopes of getting more Asians to talk about politics. We're coming at you live today from Brooklyn and LA. My name is Aaron Yin. My pronouns are he, him, and you can find me on social media at Aaron Flarin. That's AARON FLARIN. And my co-host.
Hey, my name is Gerrie Lim. My pronouns are they, them. And you can find me across the internet at Gerriaki. That's GERRIEYAKI. So before we get started, let's take care of some housekeeping. We have a Patreon. Please support us because that's how we pay for our website, hosting fees, and more. And in exchange, we have some fun perks for you, including shoutouts, merch, personalized videos, and more. You can check the rewards out at patreon.com/politicallyasian. We also have a Discord that's free. Come talk about politically Asian stuff and make memes. And as always, if you like the podcast, please give us 5 stars on Apple and Spotify. Support a small Asian business. Haha.
Nice. Today we have a great guest. She's the founder of Asian Americans with Republican Parents Support Group on Facebook and The Interpreter, an ethnic newsroom that translates English language articles from credible news outlets into Vietnamese. Please give it up for Cookie Young.
Woo! Thanks for the warm welcome. My name is Cookie Young, and my pronouns are she, her. I am the founder of The Interpreter first, and the founder of the Asian Americans with Republican Parents Support Group second. Currently based out in LA. And yeah, really happy to be joining y'all on this amazing podcast. On social media, please go look for my Facebook. Go to TikTok. I have my curated persona for aunties and elders on Facebook. But please go find me as at Paris by Night Core on TikTok. Paris by night, and then the core is CORE. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So we're going to start the episode off with our hot take, hot pot, where we each offer one opinion about the Asian community / space that we've been thinking about lately. And then we discuss them, rank them based on some spices. So this week, I will go first with my take, and I'm desperately hoping I have not said this take before as we're coming into the new season, but here is my hot take. So sometimes I do feel like the sentiment, Asian people act like white people, is true. And now before I get canceled by that statement, I am specifically talking about East Asians and specifically talking about, I guess, boba liberals. Maybe not quite boba liberals, but like, I'm specifically referring to those folks where like they'll like something will happen with like a black, like a black person, and it like whataboutisms, right? Or like when I don't know, it just feels like when a like Asian American is like, oh, well, my parents struggled. They had like a Chinese restaurant and like we pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps. Like it just feels like when white folks are like, well, like my parents worked hard during the Great Depression and they pulled themselves out of it and like, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe it's more related to class, but I do feel like East Asian, like as East Asians, like we sometimes do that the same as white people. So yeah.
Okay, so is it right to say like the TLDR is kind of like East Asians and white people both really believe in like the American dream narrative?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Do you guys think that it has to kind of do with the model minority myth? And I guess the true part of the model minority myth would encompass like that kind of sentiment?
Yeah. It's a lot, but I'm like specifically referring to like, like that sense of like whataboutism and like turning it back to Asian people or like back to, you know what I mean? Like being like really self-centered in that kind of way when the conversation wasn't really, like we weren't talking about that. So yeah, things like that. I know it when I see it.
Okay. Let's pull up the spice tier list. Let me, okay. So what I'm hearing is like East Asians and white people, they both have the whataboutism and they both have the American dream thing. I can kind of see that. I would probably give that something like something like a sriracha level algama. I think it takes a certain level of awareness to know that you're always pointing things back to yourself. And I do feel like a lot of East Asians do not have that self-awareness. So that's how I feel about it at the moment.
Okay. Fair.
I would say it's more like for me, it's like a Korean fried chicken.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
A lot of times, right? Like Asian people have this tendency to like pander I think for me, like they pander the level their experience with oppression to make it sound like theirs is exactly the same in many ways with like other minorities, like Black people or like Latinos who have historically had a longer time in the US. And so I feel like a lot of times it stops us from like being like more critical on our role in like being the oppressor too at a lot of times. And there's like this whole concept of like whitening, right? Like I think in every generation, there's like a new ethnic group that becomes like part of like white people. And there's been some who have theorized that the next group to be whitened is like East Asian people. So like I really kind of see like where you're coming in with this, Gerrie.
Yeah.
Nice. And wait, before I get canceled, I just want to say like also being mindful of like, you know, like East Asians that live in poverty or homeless, etc. Like they exist.
Can't forget that.
It's too late, Gerrie. It's too late. Yeah.
I'm over.
It's over. Over.
Okay. Aaron, you want to go next?
Yeah. All right. So my hot take for this week. So for context, about 5 hours ago, I just came from New York City Chinatown's like Lunar New Year's parade. And I was there with some other people basically protesting Eric Adams because he's like, you know, building this new jail in Chinatown. The hot take essentially is now I just feel like anytime an elected official celebrates like an quote ethnic holiday, it's always for the sake of covering something else up that's like really bad.
Okay.
So I guess the summary of that would be kind of like when Biden like celebrated Lunar New Year and had that photo op.
Yeah, I think exactly. Yeah, Biden or like Eric Adams today. He was actually wearing just like a very, you know, Chinese looking robe. And
was he really? I didn't see that in your Instagram.
Yeah.
So
you just said he was wearing something red, so I was like, oh, okay.
Oh yeah, sorry, I should have clarified. He was wearing a red, like Chinese, very Chinese looking outfit. But it's like this is the guy who's about to build a jail in Chinatown. So the layers of like
Who is the auntie that gave him that?
I don't know.
Great question.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a Joe's rice roll red sauce. Because I mean, like the image that comes to mind is like when the Nancy Pelosi thing when she was wearing like the for Black Lives Matter. Do you guys remember what I'm talking about? Like the thing on Twitter where it was like the like, I think scarf. I'm not sure what the right word is, but that feels very similar. And like yeah, of course, they feel the need to like do like some kind of photo op. I don't know, like
yeah.
Politician 101.
Yep. You know what? I'll give you a spicy spam. I think in like 2022.
Nice. Is that on? Yo, it's not even on the list.
No,
I like it. Oh, it is?
It's number 6.
Oh my god. Oh, hot and spicy spam. Oh wow, I should have used that one more often. Hot and spicy spam. Nice.
Yeah,
I
think in 2022, like a lot of us are pretty much aware of like the limits of identity politics. And it's like, yeah, you can wear our stuff and like celebrate with us, but also give us human rights, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Dude, it's also just like so funny because like the jail thing, like it's literally, you know, demolition might start in like the next week or so, you know, who knows, right? But it's like, it's just so funny how it's like, it's so on the nose and it's like, he doesn't even care. It's like, yeah, this is truly, it feels like a psyop at this point.
God.
But that is a hot take.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Cookie.
Is it my turn?
What do you have for us today? Yeah.
Okay. I was really stressed about this. So I chose mine a little, I had a few to choose from, but my hot take today is that like Asian journalism, like, neck shark and jackfruit are crucial for manufacturing consent, for war and like imperialism against our parents' countries of origins. Like you get like what I'm trying to get at?
Like you're basically saying that like publications like Neck Shark and Jackfruit use like the Asian identity to basically proliferate American propaganda, American imperialism, and like basically make us okay with like, the Chinese suck, even though I'm technically Chinese, right? Something like that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The xenophobic articles are like free flowing, like right next to the articles questioning why they're Asian hate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I guess like I would give that. I've felt like similar, but like I've felt like sometimes they'll put out like really anti-black articles. Like they never put the follow up. They never put like it was. I don't know. It just feels icky vibes. Icky vibes from both of those publications. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I really like the American propaganda angle. I don't know. I got to give that like spicy hot pot. Like that's like a really good take. I like that one.
Thank you. That made my day.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll give it I always find it funny that kimchi is right next to spicy hot pot, but I'll give it a kimchi. Well, because I feel like, if there was any magazine, I feel like New York Times is, in my own mind, like number one in terms of like stuff like the US would refer to for like manufacturing consent for any kind of, invasion or whatever in Asian countries. I think Neck Shark is getting more quote credible now that they're growing in size as like a social media and journalism platform. So I'm just like imagining like some like Department of Defense document, like, and there's like Neck Shark sources. I'm just like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Like I can see it. I don't really want it, but I think I see it now. I'm kind of denying it a little bit inside, which is part of why I think this take is spicy. If jackfruit gets on there though, that's insane. Like that. Then like, your take would be even spicier. Yeah,
like imminent war, like on the horizon.
Yeah,
at this point. But it's like, at least I get paid to do American propaganda. But at this point, they're just doing like volunteer like work. So
yeah, got it. Wow, I cannot.
Yeah. That's a good point. I think it's like extra nefarious though, because like the New York Times, like I think I want to believe that like Asian Americans can kind of like look at the New York Times and be like, oh, the New York Times, like, like it's biased sometimes, and like I don't always, like we've seen it before, like it's not always great reporting, but like I feel like Neck Shark and like places like that are, like using the Asian identity, like that feels shitty.
You would think that there would be more solidarity, but
I think it's also the fact that they cushion it a lot with like celebrity news and more fun things that makes it overall more palatable. It's like, oh, it's like, oh, like, like, oh, yes, US should invade China. Oh, but look, BTS did this thing. And then it's like, it's just like this curation that like makes you angry, but not angry enough is like maybe how it, know.
Yeah, exactly. It, like you kind of hate the page, but you need it to keep it up with the entertainment side. So I still consume it like unwillingly, but I do.
I don't know about you, Aaron, but like I feel like they do report a lot on like Asian hate crimes. Like they report on like every little like incident. And I do feel like that's how they grow their following, right? Like, oh, nobody's talking about this. Let me share it from Neck Shark. But
nobody's talking about this very small.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of websites that I generally hate, but I stay on for one reason, let's get into the main questions of the episode. So, today we are talking with Cookie a lot about Asian Americans with Republican Parents Support Group. I mentioned that because that is the only reason I stay on Facebook, not gonna lie. Before we start with the questions, I did just want to read the Facebook description. The group the group is a quote place to vent our frustrations at the generational and ideological differences between us and our Asian conservative parents, to be educated on social issues, and to organize as a political bloc.
Very ambitious sounding.
Yes.
It's nicely written.
Exactly.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, Cookie. So the first question that Gerrie and I have for you, it's something new that we're trying out, but without using the words leftist or progressive, how would you describe your political stances in a few words?
Oh my gosh, we're getting to the chase. No leftist or progressive.
Yeah, no
like
leftist or
no like
progressive.
buzzwords. You know what I mean?
Human rights for all, and question all you read when it comes from an American news source. That would be
I like it.
my stance, especially in light of the Olympics being held in Beijing. There's been a lot of instances of chauvinism happening, and I think it's super important to be an Asian American with a political identity to question beyond like, oh, am I being represented in Hollywood, right? Yeah, so that would be my stance. Like, I was wondering, how would you guys define yours?
Oh yeah, mine was a lot simpler than that. I was just like, workers' rights. That's that's the two words I had for this. But I think that's because I'm like just super into like Chinatown working group stuff right now. So like I just constantly like workers' rights are the workers being heard the most over like nonprofits, especially nonprofits right now, because I think a lot of people think nonprofits good and could never do anything bad to workers, but that's not the case. So my two words, just pro workers, workers' rights as the starting point.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I designed this question, it was because like I was inspired by Ronnie Chang talking about like the parliament and like how there's like a ton of options. And I kind of want to steal from him and say that I am a queer person who might like guns. I don't own a gun. I don't. Guns scare me. But like like hey, Civil War might be coming. I think we should learn how to use guns. But yeah, also free healthcare for everyone. So. Yeah, guns and free healthcare. I don't know.
Guns and free healthcare.
Yeah.
Like a combination of like Republican, but also not. But yeah, it's like
so leftist you turn Republican. I don't
know. The Second Amendment, nice, cool. Okay, to kind of give our listeners a better sense of the group, can you tell us what inspired you to start this, Asian Americans with Republican Parent Support group in the first place?
It's kind of a circular loop, right? So I started posting about Vietnamese American-centric content, but more political. And everyone in the comment, every time it goes viral, everyone in the comment is like, oh, this is my mom, this is my dad. Can we start a support group, please? And this was at the zeitgeist of Trump politics. And this was the first time that older Vietnamese Americans were mobilizing, but not like in a great way, right? They were mobilizing for
in a shitty way.
They got like excited about politics in like the worst way possible.
Oh no.
And so like, this is like a phenomenon across the US, and it mobilized their children, right? In return. And so once I saw how many kids were in the same like predicament as I was just making this Facebook group for fun, advertised it back onto TikTok. And then every time like I advertised this group, my videos would get like 100,000 likes and like 3,000 new members.
Whoa.
So, that's hot. That's good. that is also exactly how I found out about the group. So it definitely worked. The loop worked.
The
target audience.
Yeah. Wait, Gerrie. How did you find out about the group?
No, it was also a TikTok. It was also a TikTok. I think like And Aaron, maybe that's like why we both found it, because like our FYPs are probably like a mix of like Asian things and then like leftist discourse. So like naturally
That's
this just
too
found
funny.
its way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That or like one of us might have sent it to each other.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then we
yeah.
just both found it. Yeah.
And I want to say that like the algorithm works, but I just think everyone is just in the same shit. So it just resonated, and the group's name probably resonated a lot. And so
Yeah.
this is how like 10,000 like hapless kids are in the same like social media space at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. So as Cookie just mentioned, this group is pretty big, approaching 10,000. Big milestone, to be honest, 10,000. I noticed that, you have 2 co-moderators for the group, and I was kind of curious, like, how do you manage this? Like, kind of give us a breakdown of like, it's a pretty big group now. Like, how involved are you on a day-to-day with moderation? Like, what is it like to be a mod of like a 10K group?
To be honest, it was a little hard in the beginning. When it was born out of like a lot of political, I guess, enthusiasm, like back then, right, in 2020. So obviously there are tensions in between people. And so when we created rules, we really couldn't anticipate how the rules would work or what other rules we needed. And so it was kind of like a trial and error thing where like if someone is like trying to solicit dating, like in this group, we had to add a new rules. No soliciting dating. And
Wow.
so like, yeah, that happened too. Yeah. Or like some people would like send screenshots or snitch on a kid's parent.
Yeah.
And like the kid would get in trouble with her community. And this happened too, like early on. So we had to implement a new rule where you can't share anything from the group. So there's lots of that and lots of comment deletion and muting members sometimes. But it's gotten a lot better. The people who are more active now are a lot more politically inclined, not just during election year, but in general. So most of them are of the same mind, I would say.
I think that's like really cool. And like, like when I scroll through the page, I think what's like really special is like, yeah, it's an Asian space, but like, there is a big Southeast Asian presence. I feel like Southeast Asian. Yeah. South Asian. Okay. I was like, did I say that right? Yeah. And I think that's like really cool. Cause like, like I think like a lot of like, Asian spaces are like primarily like Chinese, Korean, like diaspora people. And so I think that's like really nice. Yeah, I'm kind of curious. Like you mentioned, like people, it's like very like same. We're all on the same page in the group. And I'm like kind of curious, like what kind of questions? Because I can't even remember like what I was asked when I first joined. But like, how did you decide on what questions you asked and stuff like that?
So the first question, right, when we first started out was, what did your parents tell you about Trump?
Oh, shit.
Oh my.
And when I tell you like the insanity of their responses, it was just entertainment galore. And I wish I could have screenshot or saved them in like an Excel spreadsheet. But it's like you get like representation finally, right? Like in this group as a Southeast Asian. But it's like, why does it have to be this kind of representation?
Bad representation.
I know. It's like, yeah. And then, as Trump like kind of faded into the background, the only thing that we ask now is, what did you ask your parents, or what did your parents tell you during your last political conversation? And I think, yeah, like it's a pretty general question, but like, which Asian kid would voluntarily speak to their parents about politics? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of a self-selective process. And that's how you kind of see a lot more left-leaning, like leftist opinions coming from these people, because I think it's a pretty self-selective group of politically engaged Asian Americans.
has there ever been an instance where you had to reject someone because their parents were not, Trumpy enough or something? Or I don't even know, but has there ever been something like that?
Actually, there have been instances where they read the group name wrong, and they thought that this is a support group for Republican kids with Republican parents.
Interesting.
So they think it's a right-wing club.
That's so funny.
Oh boy.
Some people just don't have very much reading comprehension. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Cookie, in your opinion, why do you think, we've all managed to congregate in this group, and there's almost 10,000 of us. Why do you think so many Asian Americans have Republican parents?
That's a layered question.
In your professional opinion.
In my opinion, as a professional Southeast Asian.
TM, trademark.
I think it has a lot to do with the Cold War politics. I know.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, right? The immigrants who arrived in the 70s and the 80s, they're not going to be communists or socialists, right? Because they'll be at home, freaking recovering from a war, right? And the ones who left are obviously at the very least reactionaries, or to people who have somehow been affected when communists arrived south, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Hmong population, with Cambodian population. So naturally the new congregation of Southeast Asians here would be made up of people who are fiercely patriotic and fiercely anti-communist. Yeah, right. I mean, I'm sure can you see that same parallel for the Chinese American communities?
Yes, in general. I would say yes in general. Either it's they really, really do not like China, or they really, really do like China.
There's no in between.
Or or sometimes with I think Epoch Times and Falun Gong religious type movements are growing, so that could also be a thing, which is the whole source for my parents' thing. But I can definitely see the war angle as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of them are Catholic too, so they're super anti-abortion. So there's the pro-life argument.
Yeah. That's what I was about to say for Filipinos. Because I know I feel pretty much all the Filipinos in my life are Republicans,
Catholic.
and not just Republican. Yeah, they're also Catholic, but not only were they Trumpies, they were also Duterte supporters, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know.
How do you support?
It was so weird.
How are you pro-life and support Duterte?
I don't know. It was really wild because that journalist from Rappler won the Nobel Peace Prize, and I had aunties, I had titas on the news feeds going woo, a Filipino won, the Nobel Peace Prize, and then they were Duterte supporters, and she was actively in fear of her life because of him. But anyway, besides the point, yeah, I think it has something to do with also Catholicism, and yeah, no, I really think that's it. And then occasionally class, maybe I feel healthcare workers, because a lot of Filipinos are healthcare workers, if not they're specifically nurses. I think a lot of them don't like Obamacare. They didn't like the Affordable Care Act because it grew their patient load, and they feel overworked. Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't see that one.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that's my theory. But I don't know, mixed bag.
So we're talking Cold War, religious stuff. Could be Catholicism or Falun Gong or that kind of bread. Or in this case, it's work overload.
Yeah.
Burnout. Yeah. Got it. Okay. Cookie. One thing that you did that Gerrie and I really liked was how you made this 22 slide presentation for your parents back in 2020 to try to convince them to not vote for Trump. It has a great title. It's called Last Ditch Effort.
Because it really was.
We love it. We have a lot of questions about it. first question is, we noticed that this entire slideshow is in Vietnamese, and we were just wondering, like, how do you rate your proficiency overall, and like maybe like how did you gain that proficiency?
You know, I'm very proud of my ability to speak Vietnamese, but I can't say that I had the same struggle because I immigrated to the U.S. When I was 11 years old. I'm 24 now, so like half of my life was spent in Vietnam. Along the way, I would forget like words. So I would say my proficiency is definitely not native, but pretty fluent. Like I can't tell you what hemoglobin is in Vietnamese, but like, or like translate a tax document, you know, but
yeah.
But like, it's enough, to converse and kind of help me like become the voice for a lot of young people who probably don't have the same proficiency.
Okay, yeah. I would, cause like I was thinking, I feel like that's like a really big component of like Asian households, like they don't speak English at home, and like I feel like a common joke among diaspora, no matter where your ancestral homeland is like everyone has like a second grade proficiency at like their parents' tongue. I would say the same. Like I speak Bisaya probably at like not even that, but I feel like that probably really helped with your presentation that it was like entirely in Vietnamese. So kind of going off of that, I'm kind of interested. Like you said, you can't like say hemoglobin in Vietnamese, but like how do you navigate like translating those complex topics and like breaking it down, or like what do you relate it to? And I'm just kind of generally interested in that thought process.
So you guys know that I have like a newsroom where like we translate like a lot of political articles. So before I had that, my Vietnamese in terms of like my lexicon with political words was like shit. Like I had nothing to go off of. But since I was able to like build that community, I learned a lot on the words to use and was able to kind of translate that skill into this personal project that I had. And then the topics I chose to convince my parents were reliant on like a cultural understanding of what is important to the Vietnamese community and what my dad is especially interested in. So that's how like I selected things like Donald Trump isn't a family man because like my dad is all about family, right? Or Donald Trump isn't a Christian because my dad is like a diehard Catholic. Things like that.
Yeah.
There also, we'll definitely link this slideshow to people if they want to read it. But one thing that like I noticed and was like amazed by was how many like econ graphs there were in the beginning. It was like such a breakdown of like the U.S. economy and like the trade war. There are like a lot of graphs. Like this is not your like average presentation. This was like a fucking like it was really like mathy almost. And I was like, I guess first, did you learn? I guess maybe the most relevant question is like, was this also really important to your dad about the whole economy thing, or what was the reason for like putting that all in there?
So the first like part is about like, let me see, like trade with China, which is like a big thing because Vietnamese people, I feel really bad saying this, but Vietnamese people do not like China.
I know. Oh,
yeah, I know.
I
feel like most of Asia doesn't like Japan. Most of Asia doesn't like Japan, and then slowly it's becoming most of Asia doesn't like China.
Yeah. I really don't see like Asian solidarity like anywhere in the future. But the trade part with China was like really important. So I made like 2 whole slides with like a lot of words and like a whole graph about it. And like I didn't know shit. But I Googled it. So I like had like a 10-minute like Brookings Institution research on that. And then the economy was like really important too. Like obviously not like on a micro level, but you kind of have to show that like, oh, the US is like worse under Trump to kind of convince him on the economic side of things. But it definitely wasn't just the economy.
No, I love how like, yo, there are like some truly I'm looking at these again. I'm like, yo, I literally don't know how to say unemployment in Mandarin. I don't know how to I don't know how to say unemployment in Mandarin. I don't know how to say median family income, but I'm like, well, these are this is like next level, like how to really break it down to your parents. Yeah.
No, there was a lot of Google translating involved too. So
Yeah.
don't feel bad.
Google is free. Google is free, guys.
Always free.
Yeah. For the listeners, just imagine a few slides with like 6 graphs on them, 3 graphs on them, just all these charts. It's like truly, it's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah. I was just saying, I hope that someone in the other languages are kind of doing similar stuff, but you guys probably don't face the same sort of issue and the same like intensity.
Yeah.
As, like,
Cookie, no, we do. What are you talking about?
It's pretty bad, yeah.
Like, Aaron, I don't know about, so let me back up. So I joined the group because I fit the demographic. Let me start with that.
Solidarity.
But like, my parents speak, you know, like they speak fluent English. We actually do speak English at home and occasionally, you know, Bisaya and more Bisaya when they're angry. But like, there's definitely like, I don't know how to explain it, but like they understand a concept more when it's like spoken in Bisaya. So like something like this would still be like really helpful. And I do feel like Asian dads especially like their single issue that they vote on is the economy. Like, it's like the economy and gas prices, which, yeah, like the president doesn't control that, but like those are like the 2 issues I feel like.
No, they act Aaron, like Ronald Reagan. Like they think that trickle down economy is like God. It's crazy.
Exactly.
It's like
just trickle down on me.
You're getting exploited too. You're not like.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my dad, I actually don't think he voted for Trump. I know I'm 99% sure my mom did, but I think with my mom it's more of like a religious angle, so I think I'd have to probably translate a lot of like
Bible quotes.
Religious Chinese, not like Bible, but like Falun Gong, which is its own, you know, thing. Yeah. I'm not sure how much you know about it, but it's kind of niche, but like, yeah, I think my main takeaway is that I need to learn a lot more like you know, bigger words in Chinese to even attempt to do that. But like we're talking like the spiritual realm that I don't know if we can have any graphs on that, but it's like, you know, heaven, hell, I don't know. Like I don't know.
It's like way too niche. Like Christianity is like already a beast, but Falun Gong, I don't know how much English resource there would be for you to go off of.
Yeah, I need to learn how to say some things. I don't even know how to say karma in Chinese, to be honest, but I think that's very important to talk to my mom about. I need to learn how to say karma in Chinese.
One question that I had for you is like, kind of like, what advice do you have for people like trying to do the same thing, like who want to make like a slideshow like this?
First of all, learn your mother tongue. Right? Like, I think that's so important and so undervalued in the diaspora, like as of right now. I think people are kind of starting to realize that they need to kind of get that part down. And honestly, like be plugged in to what your community cares about. Not just what younger Asian Americans think, but what do your elders care about? And honestly, just start doing it. Because I think people think that they need to have like this crazy amount of knowledge and proficiency for language and topics. But no, you can just start engaging and start getting and connect with your community. And you probably can do a lot more, with like what you do on the ground versus anything that you can do as I don't know, running for the office or whatever. So yeah, I think the barrier is not as high as you have to make it.
That's deep.
In your case, you know, as you followed up on with TikToks, your slideshow did actually convince your dad to not vote for Trump. And obviously Trump did not win the election. We're kind of curious, like, how does your dad feel about Biden now? Does he feel happy with his vote?
Oh, gosh. I don't think he thinks. I'm afraid to ask, right? But I think
That's fair.
it's a dangerous topic because my dad and I have kind of agreed to like not talk about politics.
Okay.
Oh.
After the fact, because there's a lot of friction, and one like the most recent that we talked about politics, like he called me a communist. I'm like,
yeah.
like yes,
Yeah.
but like not in the way you're thinking.
Yeah, not in the way. Yeah,
right?
exactly. Not in the way you're thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that he not happy, right? I don't think he's happy with what Biden is doing. He's consuming a lot of BBC Vietnamese, Radio Free Asia, like content.
Mhm.
And I don't think Biden is viewed favorably in either left or right wing. I mean, obviously not right wing circles.
Yeah, I do agree with that because, like, with your point about like Biden not being viewed favorably in left or right wing circles, because it's like, yes, I do not like Biden, and my mom does not like Biden, but the reasons we don't like them are not the same.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just so
exactly
funny.
that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. But I do feel like a little bit guilty for, or maybe not guilty, but frustrated because I feel like we as a collective like worked so hard, right, to get this dude like elected.
Yeah.
Like potentially like severing ties to stand for like whatever he was promising, right? And like he's just like letting us all down.
Yep.
And I don't know. I hope my dad doesn't regret his vote, but I do feel like fooled.
Dude,
sometimes.
2024 Cookie's gonna make like a 40 slideshow presentation, just double the length. It's like,
Oh God.
like why electoral politics is a hopeless case.
Last ditch effort number 2. Yeah.
last ditch effort.
last. Yeah, that's it.
The sequel.
Yeah. Final last ditch. Yeah.
I feel like it's gonna be like, I feel like a sequel of this would be even harder. You know what I mean? And like,
yeah.
like I heard there are talks that it's gonna be Hillary Clinton who is like the candidate in 2020. I don't know why they keep trying to make her happen. Like it feels like Fetch from Mean Girls.
Yeah. I was gonna say the exact same thing.
Yeah, right? Like, but like I feel like to make a PowerPoint for her would be like that's too hard.
No.
Yeah.
That's where I draw the line. Yeah. There's no way. And what do you think? Do you think it's gonna happen?
I think I need to do a little bit more research to like confirm, because like I would be very sad if we started talking about 2024 and it's barely 2022. I think there's possibility. I don't see them saying Kamala is the president for some reason. I don't know why, but like I don't see it.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're gonna give Joe Biden a second term just because like I don't know. I've seen the dude give speeches and like there's just something about it. You know what I mean? Like just not a great speaker. Yeah, like they know that if they put him out again, they're not gonna win. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I just wish that someone would play a wild card, like really, like I want someone who's like just balls to the wall. I don't know. Anyway, what do you guys think?
I'm just thinking like, no matter who it is, I don't know if it's like going to change my parents' decision to vote Republican. Like I really feel like, like Cookie, like empathize with what you're saying. Like, yeah, we did work really hard to like get Biden elected, but now he's like dropping the ball so hard. I don't even have an argument for why we should vote for him again. I'm like, it's like I'm agreeing with it's like I'm agreeing with my Republican mom, but for a different reason than why it's like not the same reasons. It's just like we just both dislike him, but
yeah,
I just don't think it matters anymore. It just
no, I'm like in the same boat, Aaron. I would say like myself, I'm like a baby leftist. Like I got radicalized like through the pandemic. So like it hasn't always been like my thing. And I got my first political disillusionment in the midterms where like, it's been 2 years and like nothing has changed for anyone, the working class.
He's still deporting people.
And like my parents are still getting exploited like at their workplaces, doing like hard labor. So it's like, what's the point of talking about electoral politics in this moment? And like to circle back on Asian Americans with Republicans group, a lot of people like feel the same sentiment, and I feel like, you know, more than a place where people congregate to talk about Trump, now it's been one of the most like politically progressive Asian groups that I've seen so far on social media.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, and we are coming up on time, so that is the episode. Cookie, thank you again for being on the podcast. Can you remind our listeners where can they find you online?
Please find me on TikTok at Paris by Night Core.
Hope you enjoyed the episode. And again, you can follow the podcast at Politically Asian Podcast on Instagram, at Politic Asian Pod on Twitter, or email us at politicallyasianpodcast@gmail.com. We take fan mail and hate mail. We also take pitch suggestions. So if you know an Asian person who would be a great fit for this podcast and you want to hear them talk about something, feel free to send that contact our way. Otherwise, help us out by leaving the Spotify and Apple review. Cool. Thanks for listening, and bye.